didn't expect to see her again. He had buried those memories deep, but when his ex-girlfriend, Sophia, appeared in the lobby of his office, it was like a storm had suddenly hit. She stood there, smiling in that way she knew always got to him, a smile that had once made him believe in everything he'd ever wanted. But now, all he could feel was anger. She didn't waste time. "I see you've moved on," Sophia said, her voice dripping with the same charm that had won him over years ago. David didn't say anything at first. His jaw clenched as he stared at her. How dare she show up now? After everything she had put him through? After leaving him for Marcus, the one man who should have been his closest ally, and taking the best part of his life with her? "Why are you here, Sophia?" His voice was colder than he meant it to be. He was better than this. He had to be. But he was still raw from that betrayal. Sophia smiled like she knew she had the upper hand. "I came to tell you something. I know about her." David's blood ran cold. He didn't have to ask who she was talking about. "Amelia?" he asked, his heart pounding in his chest. She nodded slowly, a smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "I know all about your little arrangement. I'm surprised you didn't think I would find out. A woman like that, she's only interested in one thing, David. Money." The words cut through him. "Money?" His stomach twisted at the accusation. Sophia continued, "She's using you. You can't honestly believe she's doing this out of the goodness of her heart, can you?" David felt a flash of anger, but he shoved it down. He had to stay calm. He couldn't let Sophia get to him again. But she had already planted the seed of doubt in his mind. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said through gritted teeth. "Amelia has never asked for a penny. She's doing this for her brother." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "I'm sure you think that. But it doesn't matter. I told your grandfather. He needs to know the truth. She's only using you to get what she wants, and I'm going to make sure he sees that." David's world tilted. His grandfather? No. Not him too. "Why would you do that?" David asked, his voice strained. He already knew the answer, but he still couldn't believe she'd go this far. "Because I can," Sophia said simply, her voice dripping with sweet revenge. "I'm not going to let you walk into a trap. I know you better than anyone, David. You've always been too trusting." David's blood ran cold as Sophia's words echoed in his mind. He knew Sophia was vengeful, but this? The next day, David arrived at the hospital, a knot in his stomach. His mind kept racing, replaying the conversation with Sophia. If she had really gone to his grandfather, then things were about to get ugly. When David walked into the room, his grandfather was sitting up in bed, looking much better than the last time they had spoken. His health was improving, but his face was still hard, stern. "Grandpa, I need to talk to you," David began, his voice more tense than he intended. His grandfather looked up at him with eyes full of suspicion. "About what?" David hesitated, wondering how to approach the situation. He couldn't bring himself to mention Sophia directly, not yet. "I know Sophia has been talking to you. I just want you to know the truth about Amelia." His grandfather didn't flinch. "I've heard enough from Sophia. She's convinced me that this isn't what it seems. That woman is just after your money." David felt his stomach drop. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. "What?" "Grandpa, you can't believe that. Amelia is nothing like that." But his grandfather shook his head, his voice steady. "I've made up my mind. You're my grandson. I've watched you struggle, and I can see it in your eyes. But if you want to bring someone like that into this family, I won't support it. She's not welcome here." David's heart ached. His grandfather had always been his rock, the one person he could rely on. But now, he was turning his back on him. And for what? A lie. A twisted version of the truth that Sophia had sold him. David left his grandfather's room, the weight of the conversation pressing down on him. He had never felt so alone. When he returned to the mansion, he found Amelia sitting in the living room, her back turned to him. Her eyes were focused on the growing swell of her belly. David stood there for a moment, unsure of how to tell her what had happened. He didn't want her to feel like she was the cause of this, like she was somehow responsible for the rift that was now widening between him and his family. But he couldn't hold it in. Sophia, my ex went to my grandfather, he said quietly. Amelia turned, her eyes wide. What did she say? She's convinced him that you're just after my money. That you're using me. His voice cracked. It felt like a betrayal in itself, hearing it come from his grandfather, but he couldn't deny it was happening. Amelia stood up slowly, her face a mask of disbelief. And what did he say? David ran a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling up inside him. He said you're not welcome in the family. He won't accept you. The silence that followed was thick, and David could feel Amelia's pain without her saying a word. It hurt him to see her so upset, but he couldn't fix it, not yet. I'll fight for you, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling in his mind. I don't care what they think. I'm not losing you. Amelia's eyes softened, and she stepped closer to him. Her hand reached out and rested gently on his arm. David, you don't have to fight for me. I'm not the one who needs saving here. You've done enough. But David wasn't listening. He couldn't give up. Not now. I'll prove to them that I'm not making a mistake, he said firmly. And I won't let anyone take you away from me. David paced back and forth in his office, feeling the weight of his grandfather's words crush him. His empire, his legacy, his family, it all felt like it was on the line. Sophia had already stirred up trouble with her lies. Now, his grandfather's rejection of Amelia threatened to undo everything he had fought for. She's not good enough for this family, David, his grandfather's voice echoed in his mind. She's only after your money, just like every other woman who's ever come into your life. David clenched his fists. No, that's not true, he thought to himself. Amelia wasn't like that. She had never once asked for anything more than what was necessary for her brother's treatment. He knew in his heart that what he felt for her was real. But how could he convince the man who had been his rock for so many years? David arrived at his grandfather's house, feeling the storm of emotions swirling inside him. The air felt thick, heavy, as if everything around him was waiting for the next fight. When he walked into the living room, his grandfather was sitting in his usual armchair, the stern look on his face making David feel smaller than he'd ever felt. You wanted to talk? His grandfather asked without looking up from his newspaper. David hesitated. Grandpa, we need to talk about Amelia. His grandfather's eyes flicked up, the coldness in his gaze like a knife to David's chest. I already know everything I need to know about her. Sophia's told me enough. David's heart sank. You're listening to her? He couldn't believe it. His ex-girlfriend, the woman who had left him for his best friend, was the one who had poisoned his grandfather's mind against Amelia. She's only using you, his grandfather continued, his voice firm and unyielding. You think you can just buy a woman's love. But you're wrong. She's after your money, and she's taking advantage of you. No, Grandpa. David's voice rose, a mix of frustration and desperation. You don't understand. She's not like that. She's doing this for her brother, not for me. She's not using me. But his grandfather just shook his head, his expression hardening. I've seen it before. Women like that. They'll take everything from you. And when they're done, they'll walk away without a second thought. David's chest tightened. I won't let that happen, he said through gritted teeth. I won't let you push her away. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. His grandfather looked at him, eyes narrowing. If you're so sure, then prove it. I won't accept her into this family. If you choose her, you choose to stand alone. The words hit David like a punch to the gut. His mind raced, trying to find a way to fix this. His family, his legacy, his grandfather, they meant everything to him. But so did Amelia. And if it came down to choosing between them, he wasn't sure how to decide. When David got back to the mansion, he found Amelia sitting in the living room, her hand gently resting on her growing belly. David reached out, taking her hand in his. I'll fight for you. For us. I don't care what they think. I care about you. And I won't let anyone tear us apart. Amelia didn't respond right away, but she looked at him with a soft expression, her thumb gently stroking the back of his hand. David, I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. I never wanted to hurt you. David shook his head. You're not the reason. My family, my grandfather, he's the one making this about money. You're everything to me, Amelia. And I'm not going to let anyone destroy what we have. For a moment, there was silence between them, but the tension in the air started to fade. Amelia squeezed his hand, a small smile appearing on her lips. We'll figure this out together, she whispered. David nodded, his heart finally feeling a little lighter. He didn't know how he was going to fix this. He didn't know how to make his grandfather understand. But one thing was certain, he wasn't going to lose Amelia. Not after everything they had been through. In the days that followed, David's commitment to Amelia grew even stronger. He spent more time with her, ensuring she knew she wasn't alone. But the tension with his family still lingered, and every time his grandfather's voice echoed in his mind, the pressure weighed heavier. He had to prove to them all that his relationship with Amelia was real. He had to show them that love wasn't something to be bought or sold, and that he wasn't going to let his past dictate his future. He wasn't going to lose the woman he had come to care for so deeply. David's heart was heavy as he stood at the door of his grandfather's hospital room. He had spent the last few days replaying their last conversation, trying to figure out how to make his grandfather understand. He knew how stubborn the old man was, but David wasn't ready to give up. Not on Amelia, and not on the family he was trying to build, even if it meant going against everything his grandfather had ever taught him. Taking a deep breath, David stepped inside the room. His grandfather was sitting up in bed, the same stern expression on his face. But there was something in his eyes that wasn't there before, a softness, as if he was waiting for David to make his case. Grandpa, we need to talk, David said, his voice steady but his heart racing. The old man gave a slight nod, motioning for him to sit. I know why you're here. You've come to beg me to accept her. There was no surprise in his tone, just resignation. David clenched his fists. I'm not here to beg. I'm here to explain, he said, sitting down beside the bed. You think she's using me for money. But you're wrong. His grandfather's gaze hardened. David, you're a smart man. You can't see what's right in front of you? You've been hurt before, and now you're blinded by this woman. David shook his head, trying to remain calm. You don't understand. Amelia isn't like that. She's not here for the money. She never asked for a single thing from me, except for help for her brother. She's doing this because she loves her family. The old man scoffed, leaning back in his bed. And you believe that? You think that's the real reason? I do, David said firmly, meeting his grandfather's gaze. Amelia is nothing like the women you're thinking of. She's kind, selfless, and loyal. I've seen it in the way she cares for me, even when I don't deserve it. She's here for the right reasons. I know it. David's voice softened as he continued. I know it might be hard to see, but she's everything I need. She's the woman who makes me want to be a better person. And for the first time in years, I'm happy. His grandfather stayed silent for a long time, the only sound the quiet beeping of the heart monitor beside him. David's nerves were on edge as he waited for his grandfather's response. Finally, the old man spoke. His voice was quieter now, more thoughtful. You've always been a driven man, David. Your mind, your business, it's always been your world. But I can see it now. You've changed. I can see the happiness in your eyes when you talk about her. I've never seen you like this before. David felt a surge of hope. So, you'll accept her? You'll accept us? The grandfather let out a slow sigh, his eyes closing for a moment. I still don't fully trust her. But I trust you, David. And if you believe in her, if you believe this is real, then I won't stand in your way. I've seen the change in you, and if Amelia is the reason for that, then... David leaned forward, holding his breath. Then she's welcome in this family. A wave of relief washed over David, and a smile tugged at his lips. It wasn't the full acceptance he had hoped for, but it was enough. Enough for him to prove that what he and Amelia had was real. David's grandfather reached out and placed a hand on his. You've made your choice, David. And I see you've found something that makes you happy. That's all I ever wanted for you. David's heart was lighter now. He had fought for this, and he had won. But it wasn't just about the approval. It was about finding something real, something he never expected to find with Amelia. Thank you, David said, his voice full of gratitude. His grandfather gave him a slight nod. "You're welcome, grandson. Now, go make it work. Go prove me wrong." David stood up, feeling the weight of the moment. As he turned to leave, he looked back at his grandfather, who was already closing his eyes. "Thank you, Grandpa," David whispered, before walking out of the room, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. Later that evening, David returned home to find Amelia sitting on the couch in the living room, looking out the window. Her eyes were filled with uncertainty, but when she saw him, something changed in her. "You look like you've won a battle," she said, standing up. David smiled. "I have. And we've won together. My grandfather he's accepted us. He still has doubts, but he's willing to give us a chance." Amelia's face lit up with relief. "David, that's amazing. So glad. But, are you sure about this? About me? About us?" David walked toward her and took her hands in his. "I'm sure. And I'm going to keep fighting for us. I don't care what anyone thinks. You're all I need." Amelia smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I'll fight for us too, David. Always." And as David looked into her eyes, he knew he had made the right choice. No matter the challenges ahead, they were in this together. The sun was setting outside, casting a warm golden light into the mansion. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. David paced the room, his mind racing with thoughts and emotions. He had finally won his grandfather's approval, but this was the moment that truly mattered. This moment wasn't about family business, power, or wealth. It was about Amelia. It was about them, together, and what they had built, something real, something that had started as a contract but had grown into something far more meaningful. David had spent years avoiding love, keeping himself guarded, afraid of getting hurt. But now, he knew that he couldn't keep running. Amelia had become his everything. He turned toward the table where a small velvet box rested. Inside it was a simple but beautiful ring. He had never thought much about rings, or even about marriage, but now, standing at the crossroads of his life, it felt like the only way forward. The door opened, and Amelia walked in. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, the world felt still. "David, what's all this?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with curiosity. The candles were lit, and the room was set up in a way that felt special, but she couldn't figure out why. David stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "Amelia," he said, his voice low but full of emotion, "I've never been good at this, I feel. But I need you to know something." She looked at him, her expression soft, but she didn't say anything. She simply waited, sensing the weight in his words. "I never expected any of this. I never thought I'd fall for someone again. But from the moment you walked into my life, everything changed. You've made me realize that love is more than just a transaction. You've made me happy in ways I didn't know were possible." Amelia's breath caught in her throat. She had known things were changing between them, but hearing him say it so openly made her heart flutter with something she hadn't expected, hope. David kneeled down in front of her, holding the velvet box in his hands. "I don't want this to be a business arrangement anymore. I don't want us to be just a deal. I want you to be mine, fully, completely. Will you marry me, Amelia?" Her heart skipped a beat as she stared at him, the words sinking in. The man she had once thought of as cold, distant, and business-minded was now asking her to be his partner, not just in raising a child, but in life. Her mind raced. She had agreed to this deal with one goal in mind, helping her brother. She never thought that it would lead to something deeper. She had kept her heart guarded, reminding herself over and over that she couldn't get attached. But now, as she looked at David, she realized how much she had changed. How much he had changed her. But still, doubt lingered. Am I just a pawn in his game? She wondered. What if this is just a way to keep his family legacy alive? David saw the hesitation in her eyes and rushed to speak. I know this is complicated, Amelia. I know our journey hasn't been easy. But I swear to you, this isn't just about the money or the child. It's about us, and what we can have together. I love you. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Tears welled up in her eyes. She had never expected to hear those words from him. She had always tried to keep her distance, reminding herself that this was a business arrangement. But now, in this moment, she realized something important. What we have is real. I I don't know what to say, she whispered, her voice shaking with emotion. I never imagined this. I didn't expect to fall for you, David. David's heart raced, but he stayed calm, knowing this was the moment that would change everything. You don't have to say anything, just know that I mean every word. Will you marry me, Amelia? For a long moment, there was silence. The only sound was the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Then, slowly, Amelia smiled, the tears in her eyes shimmering with a mixture of joy and relief. Yes, she whispered, her voice full of love. Yes, I'll marry you. David's heart swelled with happiness. He stood up, pulling her into his arms and kissing her gently. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Amelia by his side, he was ready to face anything. They had fought for this, and now they were going to build something real. In the weeks that followed, the couple's relationship blossomed. The wedding was simple but beautiful, just the two of them, with close friends and family. Amelia felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders as she walked down the aisle. She wasn't just a surrogate anymore. She was David's partner, his wife. Amelia's brother, finally healthy after receiving the kidney transplant he desperately needed, was there to support her. The entire experience felt like a new beginning for both of them. And as Amelia neared the end of her pregnancy, she and David prepared for the arrival of their child, ready to take on parenthood together. Their life together wasn't perfect, but it was real. They had gone from being two strangers to building a future as a couple. They learned to navigate their relationship, not just through the lens of money or necessity, but as equals, as partners. David looked at Amelia one evening, his hand resting gently on her belly. We're going to be great parents, you know that? Amelia smiled, her heart full. I know. And I can't wait for the next chapter of our lives. Together, they were ready for whatever came next, together, as a family. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please like, share, don't forget to drop a comment and subscribe. Also turn on post notifications so you will be notified anytime we upload a new story.